Rolling.
Hello, welcome to Mr. Natural's Music School. I'm Mr. Natural. Today we are going to take my book, Music Theory Decoded, strictly by the numbers, which you can find at Amazon.com, and we're going to begin a series in which we're going to go through this book chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and flesh out the information that's in here and how it's used. Now, the first thing about my method in this book is we use a tool known as the intervalometer. In the back of the book, you will find the intervalometer. The blue one here is used for creating the major scale. The red one here is used for creating the minor scale. And what we do is we have one page in here in which we have the major scale on one side and the minor on the other, and they're registered. So if you cut that out on one side, the other side is automatically fits, perfectly registered. Now we're going to use this tool, the major tool, today to show you how to use this tool to spell any kind of key. But the first thing I want to talk about in terms of figuring out the sharps or flats that would be used for spelling keys is this. First of all, we're taught that there are 12 keys called the chromatic scale on the piano. Now the problem with this is that's true for the piano, but when you're on an instrument that is non-fretted, like the violin, the viola, the cello, or a stand-up bass where you're using a bow, there are no frets. And you can actually put your finger anywhere you want. So you can start in any key that you wish to. And when you do play these instruments, violin players and viola players have traditionally complained to me that there are more scales than the 12 scales on the keyboard. On the keyboard we have 5 black keys, and each of those black keys have 2 names. For instance, we have a D sharp, which is also E flat, or we have a C sharp, which is also, we have C sharp or D flat, we have D sharp or E flat, we have F sharp or G flat. So each of those black keys actually has 2 names. So a problem comes up in music theory. If we take music theory and run it out to its most abstract, absurd possibility before it kind of folds back in on itself and comes back to the number 1, we wind up having a lot more than just 12 keys. And as a matter of fact, in order to get your music credential in any state, you have to learn how to spell 15 different keys. 3 of them we call enharmonics. But the truth is, on the violin or on the viola, there are many, many, many more. The truth is, there are as many as 35 spellings of the major scale alone, and we're going to show you how to use the intervalometer to be able to spell all of those. So let's take a quick look. On the piano, we have white keys, and there are 7 white keys, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then we have the black keys in between, and these have 2 names. For instance, we have C sharp and we have D flat. That one key could be both of those keys. But on the violin, the C sharp would be higher up than the D flat. Going from C to C sharp on a violin is a further distance than going from D back to D flat. The sharp is actually higher in pitch than the flat, which is so if instead of having a single key, which is C sharp and D flat, on the violin this would be split, and the D flat would be over here and the C sharp would be over here. Now what happens is you'd have, instead of 12 keys, as people talk about, if I have 7 white keys and 2 names for each of these, which makes 10, I now have 17 keys on the piano. So there are 17 spellings on the piano. Now, why don't we run into this a lot, and why do we only learn 15? I'll give you that in a second, but a hint is this. Everybody knows that this key is B flat, and it has 2 flats. But how many people know that it is A sharp? And in order to spell it as A sharp, it requires 10 sharps. And that is why people do not learn the A sharp. Over here, E flat has 3 flats, but D sharp, a lot of sharps. So what happens is people don't know how to spell D sharp. They do not know how to spell A sharp. So they only learn 15 out of the 17, and they just literally throw away these other keys. Another thing that happens when you spell all 17 is double sharps and double flats come into the system. They begin to happen before we get, even in the 12 here, they start to pop up every now and then. You get a C double sharp, or you'll wind up with a G double flat or something like that. But when we take the system further and further and further, double sharps and double flats become normal. So let's take another look and see how far this system can go. If we use the staff, and we put sharps on, and we start adding our sharps on here, what we wind up with is 7 sharps. And if we take and put flats on here, we wind up with 7 flats. Well, that equals 14. And then we take the key of C, which is neutral, and that makes 15 keys. And that's where the 15 comes from. If you're going to pass your California or get your music certificate, you have to know the 7 sharps, the 7 flats, and C, and to be able to spell the major and minor scales in all 15 of those, 5 of which, if you subtract from 12, 3 of which are enharmonic. The 17 here gives us 5 more. So we can have we can have 2 more enharmonics. There can be 5 enharmonic keys instead of 3 enharmonic keys, and they will have double sharps and double flats. Now the truth is, when you're reading music by number or by interval, let me just grab another color here. What happens is this. If I decide that I want to do something in A, all right, we can have the A major scale. If I want to, there goes my board. If I want to add a flat on here, I can have something in A flat. People know that. If I want to use 2 flats, double flats, I can have A double flat as well. So we have A double flat. Then I can also take to this and I can add to this a sharp. And I can have A sharp. I can add 2 sharps to here as well, and I can have A double sharp. So A double sharp, A sharp, A flat, A double. That is 5 possible keys that I can do off of the A. Now multiply that by 7, and what you're going to wind up with is 35 possible spellings for just the major scale. And that's what we're going to use the intervalometer to show us how to find the spelling for all 35. So if you are on a non-fretted instrument, first there are 3 basic rules. Rule number 1, you start with the letter name. For instance, in E flat, we would start with E, and we write out the alphabet first. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. We use the letters, the alphabet letters in consecutive order. We don't use any letter twice. We don't go E, F, G, G, D, so on and so forth. And we don't go E, F, A. We don't skip one. We always start by writing out the alphabet in order exactly. And then we're going to put the numbers 1 through 7 below each of those letters. And then we're going to look at the intervalometer on the keyboard. We're going to point to the letter name and then look at the number on the slider and see how far off it is from the actual fixed position of that letter. Now, if it needs to add a sharp to get the scale, the letter name will appear above the alphabet. And if it needs a flat, the letter name, the number will be below the letter name. So if flats come up, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the slider will wind up below the letter names. And if it winds up needing sharps, then it will wind up above. The E flat and A are things that people know. D sharp is something that's a bit esoteric. So the first thing I'm going to do here is write out the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and we're back to E. Here would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we're back to A. And here it would be D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and we are using the alphabet in sequence. We're not using B twice or G twice, and we're not skipping over a C. Every letter of the alphabet must be used first. Now the next thing is, underneath each of these, we write the number that's going to appear on the intervalometer. This will be some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Under here, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And under here will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now what we're going to do is start with the accidental. In this case, the first one is E flat. And we will take the number 1 on the intervalometer and put it on E flat. We'll put our finger on the number F. We will look at the number 2 on the intervalometer and see if it's on it, we leave it. If it's higher than the F, we'll see how many half steps above it is and add that number of sharps. Or if it's below the F, we'll see how many half steps below it is and add that number of flats on each of the letter names as we go. So let's take a look at the piano keyboard now. Okay. First, put the number 1 on E flat. And now, point at the F on the piano. Now look for the number 2 and see, is it on that key or above or below it?
It's on that key.
It's on that key, so we will leave that. Go to the number to G.
All right.
Is the number 3 on it or above or below it?
It's on it.
So we leave that.
Mm-hmm.
Go to A.
To A.
Is the number 4 above it or below it?
It's below.
So we have to put a flat on that A.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Put your finger on B.
Okay.
Now, is the number 5 above or below it?
It's below.
Okay, so again, 1/2 step. We put a flat on the B.
Mm-hmm.
Point at C.
All right.
The number 6.
It's the
It's
same.
on it, so we leave it alone. Point at D.
Mm-hmm.
Is the number 7 on it, above it, or below it?
It's on it.
So we leave that alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that means the E has been flatted, the A has been flatted, and the B has been flatted because the number on the intervalometer appears a 1/2 step below the actual position on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's look at A. So we have E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, and D, and that would be the spelling for the E flat scale. Now let's look at A. Turn back to the slider. Okay, put the number 1 on A on the piano.
All right.
Okay, so now point at B. Is it the number 2 or is it above or below?
It's the same. It's number 2.
So we leave that alone.
Mm-hmm.
Go to C.
C.
Now the number 3, is it on there or above or below?
It's 1 up.
So we have to add a sharp in this case. And being 1/2 step, we would add a sharp to the C sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, look at D.
D.
Okay, the number 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's on it.
It's the same key.
We leave it alone. Point to E.
All right.
Okay, where's the number 5 in relation?
5 and E are on the same.
So we leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Point at F.
F.
Where's the number 6 in relation?
It's 1 up.
So we have to add 1 sharp.
Right.
So we would add F sharp. Okay, point at G.
G.
And the number 7.
It's 1 up.
so we would add one sharp to the G. So if we can turn around here, you can see that the number 1 was on A, the number 2 was on B, but the number 3 was above C, so we added a sharp. The number 4 was on D, the number 5 was on E, the number 6 was 1/2 step above, so we added a sharp. The 7 was a 1/2 step above, we added a sharp. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and that is the spelling for the A sharp scale. For the A scale, that gives us 3 sharps. Now let's look at D sharp. This one's going to be a little bit harder. I'm going to put the sharp on the first D, and now let's look at the piano and set the intervalometer to D sharp.
D sharp. Right there?
That's D sharp, correctly.
Okay.
So, now point at the letter E.
E. Right there.
Okay, is the number 2 on it or above or below it?
2 is above it.
How far above it?
1 semitone?
1 semitone. So we put 1 sharp on E. Now point at F.
F.
And where is the number 3 in relationship?
F is... Okay, it's 2 semitones up.
Yeah, 3 is 2 semitones above F. So that means we have to put 2 sharps on the F, or what we call a double sharp. I'm going to put sharp, sharp. Okay, point to G.
G.
Where is the number 4 in relationship?
1 semitone.
1 semitone, so that would be a G sharp. Okay, point at A.
Okay.
Where is the number 5 in relationship to that?
1 semitone up.
It's 1 semitone, so again a sharp on A. And point to B.
Okay.
And where is the number 6 in relationship?
1 semitone above.
Okay, so 1 sharp there. And now point at C. And where's the number 7?
It is 2 semitones.
2 semitones. So again, a double sharp. So C, sharp, sharp. And again, if we can take a look at the board, you will see that the D sharp scale is spelled D sharp, E sharp, double F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, and double C sharp. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sharps for D sharp. So now we can do this for any letter. We can do double sharps. I can go A sharp, and we'll discover that there are 10 sharps. I can do A double sharp, starting there, and then pointing at A, B, C, D, and looking at the offset to the intervalometer, and in some cases we would have to add double sharps, in some cases triple sharps. So for A double sharp, we would have 17 sharps. There would be 5 double sharps and 3 triple sharps. So you can use the intervalometer as a tool to figure out the spelling for all 35 enharmonic spellings of the major scale. Remember, I can have A double flat, A flat, A sharp, A double sharp, and if it looks like an A, it's an A. I don't care what else you people think. If it looks like an A and it's on the A space on the treble clef, or it's on the A line on the bass clef, it's an A scale. Whether it's double sharps or single sharps added to it, that's 5 different A major scales. Times the 7 letters is 35 possible spellings of the major scale, and the intervalometer will allow you to correctly spell all of them easily. Thank you. See you in the future.